All right, we're looking at the review for our performance activity. Okay, so I saw a lot of you guys with the stuff on dilations and you had something crazy. So let's make sure we have the right answers here. We measured the distance between B and A and then doubled it to get the distance between A and B prime is double that. Okay, so I need to see somewhere on there the lengths. The distance between A and C is 2, so A and C prime is 4. The distance between A and D is 4, so the distance between A and D prime is 8. Now, I went down, okay? I went down and to the left because it is negative. If it was positive, you would go up, and you would always take the distance between A. So I'm not going C is 2, so C prime is right here. No, it's always the distance from A. Okay, the next dilation is 0.5, so it's half as big. So I got between A and B, I got 3.2. Between A and B prime is 1.6. A and C is 2, so A and C prime is 1. A and D is 4, A and D prime is 2. So it's a small one, it's this right here. Okay, all right, let's turn it over. And we've got our different ones with mirrors, patty paper, and compass. Okay, so let's start with a square. There are two ways to do a square with a compass. I think this is the easier way. You make a line, you bisect it, perpendicular bisector, okay? And then you're going to take your compass and measure all the sides are the same length, and then you connect these, okay? With a mirror with a square, I think is really hard, but basically you're checking to see that it's 90 degrees and that all these sides are the same. You can also kind of do the same thing where you bisect this with your mirror, but then you have to check that each of those sides are the same. I think patty paper is very simple with a square. You draw a line, okay? You fold it in half, but then you make this L shape, and then you fold that L shape in half, and you've created the diagonals, and then you can connect the outside. Okay? With a rectangle, you need 3 little football shapes to do it. One, you're making a perpendicular bisector with your line. Then you turn it sideways, make another one. So now once you have 2 lines that are perpendicular to the same side, they're parallel to each other. And then we would need one more perpendicular line here, so we have to do that whole football shape. Okay? With a mirror, you draw a line. You draw a line that's perpendicular to it. Okay? Then you're moving it over and drawing that parallel line. So I'm putting my mirror here. I am then putting my mirror here. I am then making sure it's perpendicular here. Okay? When I'm folding the rectangle, I draw a line. I fold it in half, draw the parallel line. I fold it on the side to make sure it's perpendicular, and then I fold the sides up and copy it to make sure I have that perpendicular side. A rhombus with a compass is very similar to the square, except I don't need to make sure all the sides are the same length. I'm going to measure from here to here that those 2 sides are the same, and measure from here to here with my compass after I make that. With a mirror, I simply draw a line, cut it in half that it's perpendicular, check that each half is the same, and then connect my endpoints. I draw a line, I fold it in half, okay, copy that line on one side, make sure it's the same on the other, connect my endpoints. And I can go through these again if you guys have questions on these specifically, okay? I will go over them again if you have questions specifically and actually do them. Okay. For the next ones. I know. That's the one for, you just have to do the evens. Yep. Okay, we're going to take a quiz tomorrow. Okay. Hold on, Jalen. Okay. Now, we are looking at given quadrilateral hide, okay, where we are given these points. We need to do all this information. So if we look at this, we should get the length from H to I is 5.8. D to E is also 5.8. I to D is 10.8. E to H is 10.8. The slopes from H to I and D to E are both negative 3/5. The slopes from I to D to E to H are both negative 5/2. The length of H to D, the diagonal, is 15.8. The length from E to I is 7.07. The slopes from H to D are negative 13/9, and the slope from E to I is 7. The midpoints for both HD and EI are both 6.5, 7.5. Okay, so this is a parallelogram because opposite sides are congruent and parallel, but slopes are not opposite reciprocals. There's nothing perpendicular. Diagonals are not congruent or perpendicular, but the midpoints are the same, so they bisect, so it has to be a parallelogram. Okay, has to be a parallelogram. For play, the distance between PL, LA, AY, and PY are all 9.43. Okay. The slopes between PL is 8.5. Between AY is also 8.5. Between LA and PL is 8/5 or whatever. Yeah. 5/8, 8/5. Okay. The distance for the diagonals, PA is 18.38. LY is 4.24. The slope for PA is 1. The slope for LY is -1. That means they're perpendicular. Okay. The midpoints are both 9.5 and 8.5 for both. It is a rhombus because all sides are congruent. Slopes are parallel and are not perpendicular. Oh, slopes are not perpendicular, opposite sides are parallel. Diagonals are perpendicular but not equal, and they bisect, so it must be a rhombus. Okay. Finding the composite of two reflections over two intersecting lines. We take A, put it over line 1. The distance between A and line 1 is x. Between line 1 and A prime is x. The distance between A and line 2 is y. We reflect A all the way, so we have to take all of this over to the other side, so we get y, x, x. So what is the angle between line 1 and line 2? X plus y. What is the angle between A and A double prime? 2x plus 2y. We need to translate this 4 units to the right, 3 units down, and this is the shape we get. We need to translate 2 units to the left, 1 units up. This is what we get. I can go over those points in more detail if you would like. Reflecting over x equals y, this is what you get. It should be the same distance on each side. Reflecting over the y-axis, this is what you should get. Rotations, the rotations will be on your formula sheet and they're also on the board. This messes me up each time, like we're going around the origin. So 90 degrees counterclockwise, this is clockwise, so this is counterclockwise. Your new points would be 1, 3, 5, 3, 1, -1, and 3, -4. If we're rotating 270 counterclockwise, my new points should be 1, 1, 1, 4, and 5, 4. Okay, so I went over that real fast. Which one do you want to do? Which one did you get something different? Yes, Layla.
You go to look for height stuff?
Yeah. You want to look at height specifically? Okay.
I just got really confused about the slopes, but the entire...
All of slopes?
the distance, the slope, and the...
Midpoint?
Yeah,
Okay.
I got really confused on how to do them.
All right. So this is where we use colored pencils. So if I'm going to do H to I, right? If you look, I drew a red line that went over 5, down 3. Now remember with slopes, it's rise over run. So I have to say -3 over 5. That's my slope. Because I went down 3 over 5. Okay? Shh. To find my distance, I'm going to use the Pythagorean theorem. So that's 3 squared plus 5 squared square rooted gives me 5.8. Right? Because this is a right triangle right here. So if I go 3 squared plus 5 squared, that gives me c squared or hi squared. And then I take the square root of that. Okay? You can also just use the distance formula. Who's talking while I'm talking and recording at the same time? Knock it off. Okay. So we could also use, this is h to I, you could say 11 minus 14 squared plus 7 minus 2 squared and put that in your calculator and you would get 5.8 as well. You just went around to 1 decimal. Yes. Yes. Yes, you will have a calculator. Yes, Anna.
Can you go back over the slopes? Because I got some of them wrong. I'm confused how you
Okay. With our slopes, we do want to make sure we're doing rise over run. So if you draw it like this is what you get. But also the slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Is there one in particular you wanted me to look at, Anna? Like hi? Okay. So if we're looking from h to I, we would go 11 minus 14 over 7 minus 2. And that's how I got negative 3 over 5. We can also, if we look here, did you do 5 over 3 instead of 3 over 5? 3 over negative 5. So if you look, here's h and I. Remember, whatever is going up and down has to go on top. And then right or left has to go on the bottom. When we do the slope formula, see how the y2 minus y1 is on top? That's a common mistake. You just got to double check your stuff. Yes?
So when you use the y and the x part, do you
Yeah.
combine like two of the,
So here are the points. Here's h. Here's I. Okay? For what part, honey? When I'm finding the distance or the slope?
No, the slope, my bad.
When you're doing the slope, okay, here's h and here's I. There's those points right there. So see how this is x1, y1. This would be x2, y2. Is this helping?
Yeah.
Okay? So you go y2, which is 11, minus y1,
Oh.
over x2, which is 7, minus x1. Better?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions about this part where you have to find the distances, the slopes, and the midpoints of the diagonals? Do you want me to talk about those real quick? When I go from HD, see how I've got all these things on the outside? I can still be like, okay, it went down this much and went over this much, and I can have I to E in here and talk about how it went like down this much and over this much, but it starts to get too many triangles. So I go back to my formula sometimes. Okay? And again, I'm labeling them x1, y1, and x2, y2, and then just plugging them into that formula. Slopes the same way, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And then for the midpoints, right? For the midpoints, I'm adding the x's together, x1 plus x2 divided by 2, and I'm adding the y's together, y1 plus y2 divided by 2. It's kind of like taking the average of 2 points, finding the middle. That's how I got 6.5 over 7.5. Questions about that? Okay. Anybody want me to do a mirror, a patty paper, or compass? Yeah? Do you care what shape?
No.
You want to do a rhombus? Okay. Rhombus sounds good. Always while I'm recording, the phone goes off. Miss Murphy speaking. Yep, she said it's not hers. Okay. Yep, bye. Okay. So, I strongly suggest if you didn't do your these or you feel like you did them wrong, you to get stuff out right now. So I'm going to pause for a second. Get a mirror, get patty paper, get a compass. I'm going to do this. I'm going to pause while you guys get them. Everybody should have one of these right now out in front of them. Get a blank piece of paper. I've got paper right here. Take out paper. I'm going to go over the rhombus. I'm going to pause just for a second so you can get these things right now. Even in the middle of the recording, I'm pausing because I want you to do well on this. Everybody should have one of these. They should not be playing around. They should get their stuff out. Return to your seat. Don't make silly noises. Okay, we're gonna do a rhombus. Let's do it with a compass first. Let's do a rhombus with a compass. So, whenever you're doing any one of these, you should always start with a straight line. Straight line is always how we start. This is a rhombus. I'm looking with a compass this time. Okay, so we start with a straight line. Now, I'm going to take my compass and I'm going to put the pointy end on one end point of this segment. And I'm going to make sure my compass is more than halfway, more than halfway bigger than that segment. Okay, now I'm going to make an arc where the pointy end is on that segment, and I make a nice big arc, like a half a circle. Now I'm going to take the pointed end and flip it to the other side of my segment and make that big arc. Then I'm going to draw a line through this football shape. Okay. Hopefully more accurate than I just drew it. Should it be the intersection of those two arcs? There we go. Okay. Now, I need to make sure each side is equal. So I'm going to put the pointed end on this blue line where it intersects the blue line and the pen line, and make sure it is the same on either side. My end points should be the same. Okay, that one they are. Now, I'm going to make it larger and make sure they're the same. The blue line is the same on either side of the pen line. Now, I am going to connect those end points, creating a rhombus. Rhombus's diagonals are perpendicular, but they are not equal. Okay, there you have a rhombus with a compass. questions about any of this? Okay, I'm going to move on to do a rhombus with a mirror. Okay, with your mirror, always start with a straight line. Remember with the mirror, there's a beveled edge on the bottom. That's the part you want to run your pen across. Otherwise, it messes it up. The first thing I'm going to do with this is I am going to cut this side in half, which means where I'm going to draw my pen is through there. I'm looking through the red glass, and I'm making sure the segment end point, sometimes I like to draw a big dot right here so it's easier to see, is right on top of the other side. And then I draw my line showing that it's cut in half. Okay, so this is the first spot I put my mirror. Zoom out a little bit. It's the first spot I put my mirror. Now I'm going to put my mirror right here. And again, I'm going to put a big dot right here so it's easier to see. And I'm going to make sure this cuts it right in half. This looks like it's not quite long enough. Goes right there. Now, once I have that done, this means this is perpendicular. This side and this side are equal. These two sides are equal. Now I'm going to connect my end points. Now I'm going to connect my end points. And I have my rhombus with a mirror. And I only had to put my mirror in 2 different spots to be able to do it. It's a rhombus. So first spot's right here, cutting my side in half. And then I put my second one here, and I extended this line a little bit because these 2 sides have to be equal. Any other questions about how to make a rhombus with a mirror? Are we ready for patty paper? Do you have a piece of patty paper out in front of you? If you do not, I would get one. Okay. What do we always start with any of these? A straight line. Okay. So I'm going to make a straight line. I'm going to set it up so that it is perpendicular with my side, which means when I put my straight edge, I make sure it lines up right, or I line it up with a piece of paper. Okay? I've got my line right there. What's my next step? Fold it in half. So you want the 2 endpoints of the line to be right on top of each other. Okay? All right. Then I'm going to do what once I've folded it?
Make like an L.
You're going to open it up first, right? Okay. Once you've opened it up, you're going to draw on the crease, but just either up or down, not both. Okay? So I'm just going to draw up, and I'm just going to do it a little bit. Okay. What is my next step after this? Who knows? Yeah, Layla? Not yet. We're going to fold on the line. So I'm literally folding right here on the line. So that original line that I drew, I'm folding it up on that line, and I'm tracing that line I made. So now instead of a T, I should have a plus sign. Okay? And now I am just connecting my endpoints. How are we feeling?
Wait, what? Wait, is this supposed to be a kite?
No, it's a rhombus.
Oh, okay.
Kites look like this,
Yeah.
right? This one doesn't. Kites still have that 90 degrees, but one side is much longer than the other. These are equal. Okay, so I heard somebody say, you said you were confused? Okay, so you drew your original line, right? You fold it in half. You unfolded it. You traced along that fold just one side, right? Now that original line that you drew, you have to fold it on that. Fold your paper on that line, and then trace that little line that you made. Will, focus. Questions? And then you connect the endpoints. Better, Anna? Okay. Any other patty paper, compass, mirror that you want me to do? Now's the time to ask, guys. During the performance task will not be the time. Before we move on, anything else you want me to do with patty paper, a mirror, or a compass? Okay. What about here, the very front? I saw a lot of people with the wrong answer for this one. Are you guys okay with this? Yes.
So if it's negative, so would you just go down?
Yes.
And when it's positive, you go up?
Positive, you'd go up. And you're always going from A. So if it was positive 2, it would be like up here, right? Because I'd go 2 centimeters, 2 centimeters. That's a total of 4 centimeters from A to my new C.
Okay, so,
Where this one is always from A, so it's that 4.
so do you measure it with the
Yeah.
paper first?
Yeah.
And then you times it by 2?
Yeah?
How
Yep.
about the other one?
So it's by 1/2. Please stop talking. So the other one, I'm measuring it, and then I'm timesing it by 0.5. So instead of 3.2, it needs to be 1.6. So from here to here, that's just 1.6.
Oh.
From here, it's 1.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so we're good with this? Nod yes or no? Because I can go through it and do it all over again if you're not. Okay. We're good with the hide and the play and the constructions? Because this was the page that most people didn't do. Okay. I think we're good on this. All right. These should be pretty straightforward. Do you want me to go over like the points for any of these? Translations we feel like we're pretty good on? Yes, Leila.
The back of it, the reflect over the x and y-axis part.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, first of all, I don't like it when it just does this. I like to have points. Okay? So, I'm going to label each of these. This goes over 3, -1 is this point. Let me zoom in a little bit. This point right here is -1, -1. This is -4, -3. And this is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 3, -5. Okay? So, we need to reflect over x equals 2. A lot of people, when they think x equals 2, think it's this line up here. That's y. That's the y-axis. We got to go to the x-axis, go over 2. Okay, now we're reflecting over it. So our new points, instead of this being 3, -1, becomes 1, -1. New points. Okay? Because it's 1 away. See how it's 1 away on either side? -1, 1 is 1, 2, 3 away. So we move it to the other side. 1, 2, 3 away. So it becomes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, -1. Instead of 3, -1, instead of -1, -1. Does that make sense? I'm just moving it to the opposite sides. that far away. Anything else about the rotations or anything? We're good. All right. Those of you who were not done with this, I strongly suggest you start those problems right now. Those of you who are 100% finished and got 100% on this review, got your full credit, I highly recommend what you do now is the ones that you struggled with, you try again. You've got 15 minutes left of class. We're taking this tomorrow at the beginning of the hour. Look through it again. Okay? Your homework for tonight is just to study.